So the first module is on Hello AWS, in which you understand the basics of cloud computing. Then we'll go ahead and start learning about what is AWS and AWS uh, services in brief, the first module. Second module, I'll go on and talk about VPC. I want to complete first the VPC, which is the network, in which we're going to talk about what is VPC and what are the benefits and how to create a VPC and the subnets. See, I would like to go from outside. The reason we'll do this one, and then I go on to EC2, in which you understand about what is EC2. EC2 is very similar to your virtual machines. We'll see what is EC2, what are various instance types. Then we'll see various purchasing options, how to create a Linux EC2 box, and how to log on to it, how to create the Windows EC2 machine, and how to log on to it. You'll also see some best practices of EC2 in your EC2 module. The fourth module will be on your storage services. We will understand about what are the storage services provided by AWS, and we will talk about the first type, which is your elastic block storage. Then we'll see about how you can access your services using Amazon CLI. Then next one, the type is your object storage, which is also called simple storage services. We'll learn about in sixth module about what is Glacier, what is a storage gateway, and as well as bulk data transfer like your Snowball. Then we learn about databases, in which we'll learn about how to deploy databases using managed services of AWS like your RDS, DynamoDB, Redshift, and Elastic Cache. We'll learn about how to migrate your databases from on-premise to cloud using a service called as Database Migration Service. The ninth module is on user access, in which you learn about how to create users, groups, and how to work with policies, create own policies, how to create encryption keys. We'll also learn about some management tools like AWS Trail as well as CloudWatch. The 10th module is on load balancing and auto-scaling, in which you understand about what is auto-scaling, what is load balancer, what the various types will do labs the same. 11th module is on your domain service group called as RAW53. We will see about what is this, how to configure RAW53, and what are the use cases of using RAW53. The last module is on application services, in which you'll understand about what is Elastic Beanstalk, simple email service, simple SNS, and Lambda. And we'll see introduction of options. So this is the module with some 33 hours. Now, today's agenda would include about what is a cloud computing, what are the various characteristics of cloud, what are service models of cloud, deployment models. We'll understand the difference between your on-premises and a cloud. We'll also see about the major cloud computing providers, who are they and how did they get evolved. Then we'll go on to understand the basics of AWS. So what is cloud? So as you see in this diagram, so cloud is wherein you would save all your information, might be your storage, or you want to deploy any servers or any resources. You want to start using the resources provided by some other vendor, might be like Amazon or Google. So it is something like a web service. It's a web service which you can access over internet using any device, and you can create your virtual machines, storage, networking, all these things, which is called as cloud. So cloud computing is delivery of computing services like servers, storages, databases, networking tools, and software over the internet. So this helps you to consume a computer resource such as whatever you're using. You are not getting charged for the underlying service. You are, for example, spin up a virtual machine. You are getting charged only for how long it is running and only for the virtual machine, not for the underlying infrastructure or for data center maintenance cost, something like a water bill. So this is how a cloud works, wherein you can spin up your resource anytime very faster using internet, log on to it and access the resources, and you can start using it. So who provides these type of services? They are called as cloud providers like Amazon, Azure, Google. There are lots of providers. who are at the top. So in brief, it is a model for enabling ubiquitous, that is, you can access your resource anywhere. A convenient, easy method, that is, you access through web service. On demand, you can access the resource anytime, which gives an access to a shared pool of resources. So the data center managed by a cloud provider, they have lots of servers, lots of storage, lots of network boxes. So you can access your resource anytime and start creating your resources. So it's a model for enabling ubiquitous, that is, you can access resource anywhere, convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of resources. Might be servers, networking, storage, application services, which could be rapidly deployed and released with minimal management effort. This is called as cloud computing. So any cloud must consist of, or they must provide 5 characteristics. We'll see what are those. And then we'll go and see about what is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And in the end, we'll talk about what is public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and community cloud. So these are the characteristics which you see at the top. This is pooling, broad network access. We're going to talk about all these things now. The first one is called as broad network access. So in your cloud, you have an advantage being from India. For example, you create an AWS account. Being from India, you can create resources in US also, and you can access the resources being from here using internet without having any specific types of connectivity. That's called broad network access. You can use any device if you have an account and you can start logging in. Second one is called as elasticity. So today you deploy a virtual machine called EC2 of size might be of 1 vCPU, 1 GB RAM, and 10 gigabyte of storage. So tomorrow the load on your EC2 increases. I mean, more users try to access it. So in cloud, without even redeploying it, you can stop it and increase the size if required. If you think that the size is bigger, anytime you can stop it and modify it. That is called vertical scaling. You also have options for auto scaling, wherein it could create new instances of the same size automatically. So these advantages you start getting in once you move to cloud technologies. Third one is your measured service. Measured services, you can keep track of the billing of how much you're getting charged in your cloud technologies. So you have some tools using which you could see a billing and which resource you're getting used. And before you even migrate to cloud, you have a tool called as TCO tool, using which you can calculate how much cost you're spending right now, and if you move to cloud, how much you'll start saving money. And even after moving to cloud, we have some calculator tools. For example, you're working on a project in cloud and you want to know how much will be charged. You have some pricing tools for the same. This can measure service. Fourth one is your on-demand self-service. So even without anyone's help, if you are aware of how to use internet, it's very basics. You can log on to the account and start working on the resources. Quite easy, even if you're not technically savvy. Last one is resource pooling. Resource pooling means it's something a wholesale market wherein you have all the resources, that is there are raw resources available for you anytime. So on top of it, if you want to create your EC2s, you want to create your own storage, you want to create your own networking, all this could be done quite faster. So these are the essential characteristics of cloud. Now let's understand the service models of cloud, which is your IaaS, PaaS, and software as a service. So the first column talks about wherein your company is not working on cloud. They are maintaining their own data center wherein they have the network, routers, storage disk, and physical server which has their compute. And on top of which you are installing hypervisor. Are you aware what is hypervisor? What is virtualization? Any questions? Any questions on what is hypervisor, what is virtualization? Are you all clear? Hemant, Priyanka?
Yeah, virtualization I'm aware, but hypervisor that I'm not.
Okay, virtualization would be done by, let me show you. You do not have a operating you are bare. So let me. So if you're aware of virtualization, then you must be aware of hypervisor also. Okay, you see here virtualization. So what happens in general is if you're having a physical server and on top of which you install an operating system, you can deploy applications uh, based on your operating system or based on the hardware. Mostly based on the hardware is a dependency. So even though you can create multiple applications, for example, you cannot create a 32-bit application, 64-bit application on the same machine. So your physical servers are not getting completely utilized. For example, you buy a server giving 1 lakh and you just a size of 50 CPUs and supports a 50 GB RAM. You'll be hardly using 10 vCPUs or 10 CPUs or 10 GB of RAM. So much of getting wasted. So technology virtualization came in when instead of installing an operating system on top of your the bare metal, you would install something like a VMware hypervisor, which would abstract the underlying physical servers. And on top of which you can create multiple virtual machines, and each virtual machine can have separate operating system and different applications. And each virtual machine is independent. This is called as virtualization. So as you see here, on one physical server, I have 6 virtual machines, each one running in different operating system and each one having different applications. This is called virtualization. So VMware provides ESXi hypervisor, Citrix provides Zen hypervisor, and Microsoft provides Hyper-V hypervisor. Good. This is going to improve your asset utilization and also since the number of servers is going to reduce power and cooling needs, lower OpEx, lots of advantages. And if you work on virtual machines, it just takes a few minutes to create a virtual machine. So creating a virtual machine just takes a few minutes, and we saw the advantages why you want to go for virtual machines by like elasticity and other factors. So this is a brief about your virtualization. This is how your virtual machine looks. It will still have this various components of physical servers like your various ports, your NIC card, all the will be there. The difference is it is not physically visible, but you can still modify and add the resources as required for virtual machine also. There are two types of virtualization. First one is a type 1. So type 1 is you install directly the hypervisor on the bare metal, the server itself. This gives you more advantages. So in case if you're not able to install on the bare metal, that is, and you try to install on the OS, so a software like a VMware, Player, Oracle VirtualBox, all these things are type 2 hypervisor. So what you do is, in case if a laptop is not supporting service, not supporting to install a hypervisor, because it must be Intel VT enabled, you would install software like a Oracle VirtualBox or VMware Player on top of the OS and start using it. This is called type 2 hypervisor. The type 1 hypervisor is in the bare metal, type 2 on the OS. And for companies or enterprises, you start using a type 1. So this is in brief about virtualization. So any cloud works on virtualization, wherein all the components would be virtualized. Clear?
Yeah,
Now going back to here. So the virtualization consists of hypervisor. So above which you start creating virtual machines, all this thing you do. So when you move to cloud, cloud provides you 3 models to which you can move across. First one is infrastructure service, stating that you can give and tell them you manage the data center for me. We do not want to manage the data center for ourselves. So you tell vendors like AWS and tell that we want you to manage our data center, or we want our service to be hosted in your data center. So all these things is managed by AWS till the hypervisor level. And on top of which you can start creating virtual machines, applications, all these things which what you do. So you do not have complete access to this, and they do not have complete access to this. This is called as infrastructure service, like your EC2s, your load balancers, what you create on infrastructure level. This is called as infrastructure as a service. Second one is platform as a service, wherein you are, apart from the infra, even the middleware, the operating system, those things also could be rapidly deployed or automatically deployed using these services. That is called as platform as a service. Your work is you choose a template. For example, you want to deploy a web application. You would just choose on the platform on which you want to deploy your application and upload your application code, and the application is going to deploy, as well as in the background the EC2 machines, load balancer, auto scaling, all this will be done by you automatically by AWS. This is called platform as a service. And the third one is software as a service. This is normally do not be provided by AWS. They do a third-party partnership. I mean, AWS does not have any specific software as a service. What exactly software service is? You can buy any software from marketplace, might be Office 365 or whatever software you want. It will have some instructions as to how to install it, and you start installing it. In simple, software as a service is wherein you do not do anything. Everything will be managed by your AWS vendor. You get as a software and you can start using it. These are the three service models of cloud. You will learn about the first and second more into this specific course. Any questions? So let me show a plan, the benefit of cloud. If you're not using cloud, this is working on your physical servers. On a weekday, the load on your servers might be high because more users can access it. So what the administrator people use, they try to increase the resources like the CPU or memory. And in the weekend, might be that the resources are over provisioned because no users are accessing. So here you're not effectively utilizing resources. But in cloud, you have options wherein it could scale automatically based on the load, either scale out or scale in. That is what is cloud. So you're going to save lots of money once you move on to cloud, and you pay for your actual resources like your water bill, electricity bill, how much you use. Only for that you get charged. The major vendors are Amazon, the first, second followed by Azure. Then we have Google and Alibaba. These are the four, or fifth one is your IBM. These are top 5 public providers. VMware, these are private cloud providers. Talked about this, these are 5 characteristics. So let me show a small demo as to how it works. Now let's understand how a developer wants to deploy EC2 instance with some application. This is one of the examples of infrastructure service. The developer has created an account on AWS or any cloud, and she logs in and she clicks on the library which has various images. For example, she wants to work on a Linux box in which she wants to install some application like a web application. She logs in, click on the library, click on the images. This is the image which she wants to start working on. So she's an image which has a Linux or any specific OS, which has also database. So you would get in some images with the database like your SQL. You choose it, and she starts configuring the VM. Along with that, she starts configuring the database, and she deploys the application. And once there are more applications which is deployed in your EC2 instances, she would try to use load balancer to balance loads across different EC2 instances. So this is called infrastructure service, wherein you would choose first a template, but still you have to configure the application, you configure the server, all these things. Now, if you choose platform as a service, you see here, you have the server up and running for you. And you also have load balance ready for you in the backend. Your work is you provision database and you deploy the application. Simple. This is called as platform as a service. So this is going to still improve the developer productivity and efficiency because you're not working on the infrastructure part at all here much. So this is called platform as a service. Software services, you can buy software, any software, but within AWS has third-party partner. So you can buy a software and start deploying on EC2 machines quite easily. Yes, any questions on the 3 service models? Hemant, can you hear me? Is it clear now? Yeah, I can't hear your voice. Could you please, I think there is might be some problem from your end. Can you please check it? Okay, let me continue. Okay, I'll wait for you. Now the next one is your private, public, hybrid community. These are called as deployment models. So on each of the service models, you can either have a public and private and hybrid and community. So these public, private and hybrid, these are normally used for the enterprise. Community is not used at all for enterprise. It's normally used for a home use cases or for a personal purposes. So what is public? So public is, for example, you understand that you have your laptop and you have an entire team who are using the resources of your laptop. That is called as public, wherein the resources of the server or the underlying network or storage is being shared across multiple customers. Private is, and so this managed by a different cloud data center provider. Private is you do not want the underlying resources to be managed, to be shared across multiple customers. So what you do in this case is you would either have the servers installed on your on-premises or you can have it installed on your cloud provider and you have a secure connection, that is you access over your VPN. This is called as a private cloud. The last one is a hybrid cloud wherein you have some integration between your on-premises like a private cloud or a public cloud. So a simple example is like a VPN. So VPN is a connectivity wherein you log in to your cloud resources or any resources from your office to cloud using a connectivity like a VPN, which is a virtual private network. This is one example. Second example is, I'll show you one example to make you understand cloud quite easily. So wherever there is integration between on-premises and your public cloud or from on-premises private to a public, this is called as storage. This is called as hybrid. So example you see here, this is your customer premises and you have some application servers and you want to save some information on your on-premises and some information on your cloud. And you can have an integration or a gateway configured. This is called as hybrid. So if you see for a VPN also, you see that there is a connectivity from on-premises to public cloud. So the connection always, if you have it like this is called as hybrid cloud. So single sign-on, all the technologies, all works on hybrid cloud. So this is in brief about hybrid cloud. I think you've seen this. Any questions? This is all about your basics of cloud computing. So you need to understand what is cloud. It's a web service using which you can access resources from any time. They have advantages, the various cloud vendors, characteristics, what is the 3 service models, And the last one is your deployment models. Now let's get on to AWS now. So they started with Amazon.com. They started like a retail website in Amazon 2006. And in 2008, they started their services of cloud, which is called as Amazon Web Services. So initially, the Amazon.com, they were using physical resources for saving all the infrastructure, network, all these things. Then they started moving on to their own cloud services. And since it's quite old, it's quite famous, and you have services for everything. For example, you want to start working on machine learning, you have some services. IoT, AI, whatever service you want, you have services in AWS. They have very good support. And hence, lots of customers use AWS. Since lots of customers use AWS, there's always a demand for AWS professionals, mostly architects. So a certification is very much required for anyone to prove his knowledge on AWS, which could help him either to promote a promotion or a new job. So it's a subsidiary of Amazon.com that provides on-demand cloud computing platforms to individual companies and governments on a paid subscription level. It enables business and developers to use web services. So these are some of the services you provide, like storage, you have compute services, networking, app services, content delivery, development tools, whatever you want, you can get it in your AWS. So where you can find this, you can find all these details. So this is the launch page or the home page of AWS Cloud, which is aws.amazon.com. You can find in all the products listed under this website. Click on products here, you can see that there are 90 services. In compute, there are 10 services. In storage, they have around 10 services. Databases, migration, networking, developer tools, management tools, machine learning, analytics, security tools, mobile services, cost tools, software services. So they have everything. They have very good documentation, and you can also look into lots of videos in this. So they are very good. So hence AWS is the leading cloud provider. Also cost, we have lots of pricing options, which helps customers save money. Now let's understand in specific what are the advantages of moving on to AWS. The first one is trade capital expense. Trade capital expense, what we talked about in cloud. You need not buying the servers in here. You are just going to be charged. For example, the virtual machine. You run it for one hour, you get charged only 1 hour. You use some volumes, disk volumes. You do not pay for the storage disk. You just pay only for the actual data which you use. This is where you can start saving money once you start using variable expense. Second one is benefit from massive economics of scales. So since lots of customers use this, for example, in data centers, if you start, that is how it works. So you can also go for models where you say that I will pay for 1 year and you get discounts. So that is called as economics of scales benefits. Increase speed and agility, you can rapidly deploy EC2 instance. It just takes 5 minutes to deploy EC2 instance with an application, and it boots up quite fast. You can modify the size anytime. Lots of advantages in efficiency and agility. You don't worry about capacity. Talked about scalability is the main challenges with enterprise. So this is, you're not worried. Anytime you can have your resources deployed. And the main and other one is data centers. So data centers, maintaining data centers by any company is quite challenging, very costly, and it's taking so much of time for you to deploy anything. For example, you want to deploy new applications. To order a server, it takes 10 days. Then when a server comes in, you have to rack it, you have to do ILO configuration, have the storage tracks, all this get ready. All these things you can stop doing this once you start moving on to cloud. Last one is go global in minutes. Talked about you can create resources being from India in US. And if you're having a team, for example, some companies, they have teams in very different countries. They can collaborate the resources and easily access resources. These are the advantages which you're going to get in once you move on to AWS. So we have lots of service starting from your networking. We talked about EC2s and all the things. Now, before we understand these services, let's understand the equivalent of what you use on enterprise. So traditional infrastructure, we have something called firewalls. So firewalls are when you block in traffic not to enter your environment. Similarly, have at the server level or instance level, this is called as security groups. You can block in the ports or restrict traffic using security groups. You would have ACLs, which is access controllers on the networking, which you normally use for the sub networks. You have similar concept in here in which you can allow a traffic onto your subnets. You create users as IT admin. They use tools like Active Directory for creating users, groups, and policies. Similarly, in your AWS, to manage various users and policies within AWS environment, there is a service called as IAM, in which you can create users, groups, policies, and other keys which is required for your data. The next one is networking. Networking concepts. Router is a component or a device which is going to connect various devices. And we will talk about switches. Switches are within your network, which is going to connect different devices. You can do these concepts using your load balancers and your VPCs. We have similar services. Operating system, you would normally use ISO file for deploying it. In here, you use Amazon Machine images. You have some images ready available. You would use physical server, which is going to take in bulk data, so much of cost and so much of cooling needs and other major requirement for servers. These are completely avoided in your AWS, in which everything's virtualized. So you start saving on costs, start saving on time to deploy and other benefits. For storage, either you can use a DAS, which is your direct attached storage, SAN, which is your storage, which is shared, and NAS is for your sharing your files between different file systems. We have the same concept like EBS, which you can attach to your EC2 instance directly. EFS is for a SAN. You can start sharing files first, and S3 is for your object storage. It's also called as storage for the internet. So you can access your resources from internet quite easily if you just create a folder that's called a bucket and input objects. The last one is databases. If you want to deploy any Oracle or SQL, which is our relational database types, you have a service called RDS. If you want to start using the tables or documents or non-SQL databases, if you want to start using it on AWS, you can start using DynamoDB. So you want to start analyzing that whatever I can do it on premises, still I can do on cloud, on AWS, by using the services. So we are going to learn about all these services in detail in the class. Security, networking, compute, servers, databases, lots of things we're going to learn. But in brief, this is the comparison between your traditional and your AWS. Any questions? Now let's understand the topic called as AWS Global Infrastructure. So what does it mean? It means that it will let you know about where does AWS have their presence work and what are the advantages of using AWS infrastructure. Go down in this page and you want to see this because they keep on adding new data centers every year. So this is what you want to refer. You see that all these blue dots and red dots. Click on learn more. So this is the diagram which is seen here. So AWS has the data centers. So the regions are the locations where they have data centers. They have lots in US, they have in Europe, they have in I think this is Japan and Korea, those places. You have in India, in Mumbai, you have in Singapore and Australia. So and the ones which in green, these data centers are coming in very soon. The numbers, what you see in the inside, these are called as zones. So we'll understand what are these. So US East, we have North Virginia, Ohio, and each one has 6 zones, 3 zones. In US West, you have North California, Oregon, Asia Pacific, Canada, China, all these locations. So regions has zones. So it's very basics. So if a region, if you have only one data center in a region, if one data center goes down, it is going to affect the complete, you might have loss of data. So in a region, normally you will have at least 2 or 3 zones, and each zone is again a collection of data centers. So this is for redundancy. You would at least want to have 2 zones in a region. So it's up to AWS how many they want, but a minimum of 2 zones must be part of a region so that customer can start saving the information. That is called a zone. Zone is a concept in which you're going to have multiple data centers clubbed, and any traffic happens over intranet or a high-speed network. I'll show the slides. So regions, you define the region. For example, if you are in US, your customer in US, you would obviously choose a location in US for provisioning your customer resources because it is quite close. So you decide users for the region where you want based on one is where are the customers from. Second one is the cost of resources in each region differs. The cost is not the same cost. Then you also would like to go based on the region, based on the compliance rules. For example, Europe customers, they do not like to have the data outside Europe. So you have lots of things before you decide a region. The first one is where the users are from, what are the costs, and any compliance rules. And also all the services are not available in all the regions. So you decide a region based on 4 factors. First one is the user base. Second one is cost of services. It varies each region. Any compliance wherein they do not want to have the data from their own region. Fourth one is service availability. So the common services like EC2, VPC, these are common, which you can find in all of them. But the latest services like your IoT or machine learning, you might not have in all the regions. So as an architect, you need to decide any region based on these 4 factors. Now let's understand more about these regions and zones. So as I talked about, inside the region, you would have some zones. So each region would have a minimum of 2 zones. And how does that zone look? A zone can be again a collection of one data center or multiple data centers. And every zone is connected to an intranet, which is high speed, resilient fiber connectivity. So any data which is there internally within the region, they can access quite fast across the zones quite fast. These are called as zones. It can be one data center or multiple. For example, Mumbai, if we consider the region, you might be having 2 zones, might be North Mumbai and South Mumbai. And again, each zone can consist 2 different buildings in which they have data centers. This is called as a zone. So zone is very much required for your high availability within a region. So if you want to start getting high availability within a region, you have to start using zones. That is, you have to create EC2 instance in at least 2 zones so that even if instance which is running a critical application goes down, you can still start getting the details from the other EC2 instance. So it's a logical grouping of data centers in a given region for service high availability. And a data center is a location where your actual physical data resides. A zone can be again a single or couple of data centers clubbed into one AZ. So this is what the numbers you saw. For example, Mumbai has only 2. It keeps on going. So this is about regions and zones. Any questions? So the next topic is edge locations. Edge location is what you see in this purple colors. So let me explain the diagram. These are edge location. Let me explain the simple diagram here. So simple use case, as you see here, this diagram. So we saw in your AWS, the main page, in which you have so many data centers. So for example, right now I am in India and I have deployed some resource, a customer, I access the resources from India. But now I would go to Europe and I want to access the resources which is in India. The distance is quite far. So for these type of cases, what will happen is distance quite far, there's going to be a latency. So in these cases, you can use something edge locations when you have lots of edge locations in multiple locations. You would configure the closest edge location to and say that the first time, so here I was here, I moved to some other location and I want to access some content from S3 bucket. So you would configure edge location which is closer to the location where you are, and you would configure stating that first time get the data from my actual resources S3 bucket in my India. The next time if I access the same resource, I want you to cache the information, and instead of all the way going to India, get me the details from the closest edge location. This is called edge location. So edge location is the term which is for infrastructure term, and this service which uses edge location is called as CloudFront World. And you can configure any of these locations and you get in the resources quite faster. We'll see in detail about this in the actual classes. The last one is how to access the services. So you can access your services like EC Tools, S3, whatever you want, you can create using a GUI. The first one. Second one is you can also access resources using a command and interface. Third one, you can use the